Listen up. Your favorite jar of peanut butter might be a silent killer, especially if you're diabetic, packed with toxins that could spiral your health into chaos. I'm not here to scare you for kicks. I've seen patients crumble under the weight of hidden dangers in something as innocent as a peanut. Let's dive into this mess together and figure out how to enjoy these tiny treats without signing a death warrant. Now, let's peel back the curtain a bit. You might be thinking, peanuts? Harmful? Come on, they're just a snack. But here's the kicker. What if I told you that the average person munches through 3 to 4 pounds of peanuts or peanut butter every year? And for diabetics, that number often doubles. That's a lot of exposure to something that could be laced with pesticides, mold toxins, and inflammatory junk from mass production. I've had folks come into my clinic confused and frustrated, wondering why their blood sugar won't stabilize despite eating healthy. And when we dig deeper, peanuts often pop up as a sneaky culprit. So let's ask ourselves, could there be more to this nutty obsession than meets the eye? Stick with me, because we're about to uncover some ugly truths, and, more importantly, how to outsmart them. Let's lay the groundwork and get to the heart of why peanuts are a double-edged sword, especially for diabetics. First off, the good news. Peanuts aren't all bad. They're loaded with heart-healthy monounsaturated fats that can help lower blood sugar levels. Studies show that regular peanut consumption might slash your risk of developing diabetes by up to 21% if you're not already diagnosed. They're also a solid source of protein, which steadies blood sugar spikes, unlike the roller coaster you get from bread or rice. Picture this. A patient of mine, let's call him a regular guy in his 50s, swapped out his usual carb-heavy snacks for a handful of peanuts. Within weeks, his post-meal sugar spikes flattened out. Peanuts slow down that glucose rush when paired with other foods, thanks to their fiber and nutrient density. Think vitamins and minerals galore. But here's where the plot thickens. Peanuts aren't just grown in some pristine garden. They're a crop vulnerable to pests and diseases, meaning farmers douse them with pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, more so than many other foods. Unlike hard-shelled nuts like walnuts, peanuts have a soft, porous shell that soaks up these chemicals like a sponge. Even organic options aren't always safe. I've heard stories of so-called organic farms cutting corners because audits are spotty. Then there's the processing nightmare. Mass-produced peanut butter sits on shelves for months, exposed to light and oxygen, turning healthy fats rancid and toxic. Check the label next time. Added sugars, monoglycerides linked to cancer risks, and hydrogenated oils often sneak in. These aren't just buzzwords. They're inflammation triggers. I've seen lab reports from patients showing elevated markers of oxidative stress. And when we trace their diets, processed peanut products were often to blame. And don't get me started on storage. Mold grows on improperly stored peanuts, producing aflatoxins, some of the most potent cancer-causing agents known to science. The numbers are grim. Research indicates aflatoxin exposure significantly ups risks for liver cancer, especially in regions with poor storage practices. For diabetics, whose systems are already under strain, this is like pouring gasoline on a fire. Toxins disrupt endocrine function, mess with insulin sensitivity, and can even contribute to developing diabetes in the first place. I've sat with patients who've eaten peanuts their whole lives, only to be blindsided by diagnoses of chronic fatigue or thyroid issues, all pointing back to environmental toxins. So, while peanuts offer benefits, the risks tied to how they're grown, stored, and processed are a ticking time bomb we can't ignore. All right, let's shake things up with a curveball. Did you know even the roasting process, something we think makes peanuts tastier, can turn them into a health hazard? I've had folks swear by roasted peanuts as their go-to snack, only to find out the heat transforms healthy fatty acids into harmful hydrogenated fats. It's not on the label, but the science is clear. High-temperature roasting creates compounds your body struggles to metabolize, piling on stress to an already burdened system. Think about that for a second. Your safe snack might be quietly sabotaging you. I recall a case where a patient, diligent about avoiding trans fats, couldn't figure out why her cholesterol levels were climbing. We dug into her habits, and those daily roasted peanuts were the hidden villain. It's a betrayal most don't see coming, and it deepens the question. If even the preparation method is against us, how do we fight back? Let's push further into this rabbit hole and uncover the full scope of what we're up against. Here's where we hit the peak of this roller coaster: the toxic truth about peanuts and how they're linked to chronic diseases far beyond a simple blood sugar spike. Let's start with pesticides. Because of that soft shell, peanuts absorb chemicals deep into their core, unlike harder nuts that get some natural protection. Studies estimate that peanuts can retain pesticide residues at levels higher than many other crops, even after washing or shelling. I've seen patients with unexplained rashes, constant inflammation, or fatigue. And when we test for environmental toxins, pesticide exposure often lights up the charts. For diabetics, this is catastrophic. Chemicals act as endocrine disruptors, throwing insulin regulation into chaos. I had a case a few years back, a fit guy in his 40s who couldn't understand his sudden diabetes diagnosis. He wasn't overweight, didn't binge on carbs, but his lifelong peanut habit traced back to high toxin exposure in non-organic batches. Then there's the mold issue. Aflatoxins produced by fungi on poorly stored peanuts are classified as Group 1 carcinogens by the World Health Organization, meaning they're as bad as it gets for cancer risk. We're talking liver damage, immune suppression, and a direct hit to already compromised diabetic systems. I've read lab reports where aflatoxin levels in common peanut brands exceeded safe limits by double digits, especially in humid storage conditions. And let's not forget processing. When peanuts are crushed into butter, fatty acids react with metals like copper and iron used in machinery, spawning free radicals. These aren't just science jargon. They're linked to arthritis, heart disease, multiple sclerosis, and yes, worsening diabetes. Research from nutritional journals ties free radical damage to to accelerated aging and degenerative conditions. Think shaky hands, mimicking Parkinson's, or unexplained reproductive struggles. I've sat across from women desperate to conceive, doctors shrugging with no answers, only to find environmental toxins from everyday foods like peanuts as a likely fact. Roasting, as we touched on, adds insult to injury, destroying beneficial nutrients while creating harmful byproducts. The evidence is overwhelming. A study in food chemistry showed roasting can reduce antioxidant levels in peanuts by up to 30%, flipping them from ally to enemy. For every patient I've helped stabilize blood sugar with dietary tweaks, I've seen others blindsided by these hidden threats. Neurological symptoms, cancer scares, you name it. Most chronic conditions we battle today aren't just genetic or lifestyle. They're environmental. And peanuts, if not handled right, are a major player in that disaster. The takeaway is brutal, but necessary. Ignorance about where your peanuts come from and how they're made could cost you everything. Now let's lighten the load for a moment with a bit of a surprise. Turns out, you don't have to ditch the nutty goodness entirely. There are ways to outsmart this mess. Imagine this. Instead of grabbing that processed jar off the shelf, you're in your kitchen, blending up your own peanut butter from fresh, organic peanuts. It's not just safer, it's a game changer. I remember the first time I tried it myself after a long day of clinic hours. There's something almost therapeutic about the whir of the blender. Watching those peanuts turn into creamy gold without a single sketchy additive. And the taste? Night and day compared to the store-bought stuff that's been sitting under fluorescent lights for months. Or picture swapping peanuts for almonds or walnuts, which don't soak up pesticides like a sponge thanks to their tougher shells. I've got patients who've made the switch and rave about walnut spreads on toast. Same satisfaction, less worry. Then there's tahini, a sesame seed paste I stumbled upon during a trip abroad. Slather it on anything, and it's like a flavor explosion. Nutty, rich, and far less likely to be contaminated. Sunflower seed butter, cashew butter. The options are endless, packed with magnesium, vitamin E, and healthy fats without the toxic baggage. I've seen folks light up when they realize they're not stuck. One lady, after years of peanut butter obsession, tried cashew butter and swore she'd never go back. And here's a little trick I've shared with hundreds of patients. If you're set on peanuts, go for fresh green ones, not the pre-cooked grocery store kind that might be soft and spoiled. Check for firmness, store them right, and you've dodged a bullet. The joy of rediscovering food without fear. It's like finding a hidden treasure in your own pantry. I've watched families bond over making their own nut spreads, turning a health scare into a quirky kitchen ritual. It's these small wins that remind me why I fight so hard to get this info out there. Because you deserve to enjoy food, not dread it. So here we are, at the end of this wild ride. Peanuts can be a diabetic's friend with their blood sugar benefits, protein punch, and heart-healthy fats. But only if you play it smart. The risks: Pesticides, aflatoxins, rancid fats from processing are real and can fuel diabetes, cancer, and a host of chronic nightmares. Choose organic. Go unprocessed. Check every label for sneaky additives. Or, better yet, whip up your own peanut butter at home. Explore safer alternatives like almonds, walnuts, or tahini, and take back control of what you put in your body. If you found this deep dive eye-opening and want to keep hearing stories and tips like these, hit that like button and subscribe. Your support is what fuels me to keep sharing. And hey, I'm curious, have you ever tried a nut butter alternative or made your own at home? Drop your experience in the comments. I can't wait to read about your kitchen adventures.